10 minutes. That's all that separated Barack Obama from his victory speech. But what the hidden camera captured in that empty room was never supposed to be seen. A panic attack, a mysterious phone call, and the words that changed everything. But there's another secret in this story. The person who made that phone call didn't know who Obama was. They just noticed that that black candidate on TV looked stressed, and their call would change America's future. November 4th, 2008, Chicago, 11:50 p.m. 240,000 people were waiting for Obama's victory speech in Grant Park. History was being written. America's first black president had been elected. People were dancing in the streets, cars were honking. The world's media had focused on Chicago. CNN, BBC, all news channels were broadcasting live. Obama's campaign team was making celebration preparations at the Hilton Chicago Hotel. David Axelrod and Rahm Emanuel were discussing last-minute details. The speech text was ready, the stage was set, cameras were in position, but nobody knew the condition Obama was in at that moment. On the 47th floor of the Hilton Chicago Hotel, in one of the security rooms, Secret Service agent Marcus Johnson was conducting routine checks. Johnson was an experienced agent with 15 years of service. He had worked during the Clinton administration and had also served on Kerry's campaign. He knew these big nights well. While monitoring security screens, footage from camera number 12 caught his attention. In the VIP preparation room on the 42nd floor, Obama was sitting alone in an empty room. The room was simply decorated, a desk, 2 chairs with a view of Chicago on the wall. It was a special area set aside for the presidential candidate's final preparations before his speech. Johnson wasn't initially concerned. It was normal for the presidential candidate to prepare before his speech. But then he noticed how Obama was breathing. This wasn't normal. Johnson examined the monitor more closely. His 25 years of security experience was telling him something. Obama's posture, hand movements, facial expression, these were signs of stress. The camera showed Obama up close. His hands were shaking. Sweat was running down his forehead. And worst of all, he couldn't breathe. Obama's chest was rising and falling rapidly, as if he was trying to get oxygen. Various scenarios ran through Johnson's mind. Heart attack, asthma attack, or Johnson had seen these symptoms before. In Vietnam veterans, in PTSD patients, these were signs of a panic attack. Obama's eyes were staring blankly at the ceiling. His lips were moving, but no sound was coming out. Johnson was a trained lip-reading agent. He tried to understand what Obama was saying. "I can't. Who am I? This is too big." Johnson immediately grabbed his radio. "Code blue, code blue. POTUS has a medical situation." But just then, when Obama pulled out a small paper from his pants pocket, Johnson froze. Johnson had seen this paper before. Throughout the campaign, Obama would always pull out this paper during difficult moments. Yellowed, with worn corners, a handwritten note. Johnson knew the story of that note. Obama had once told him, "Marcus, this note is my compass. It shows me the way in my darkest moments." That note contained words written by a Vietnam veteran. Johnson didn't know the exact text, but it had something to do with John Thompson. Johnson realized this wasn't just a panic attack. Obama was being crushed under the weight of history. In an hour, he would go out and speak to 240,000 people, to 300 million Americans, to billions of people, as America's first black president. This burden could crush anyone. 11:51 p.m. Obama tried to stand up, but his legs wouldn't support him. He sat back down. He held his head in his hands. When Johnson increased the volume, he could hear what Obama was saying. "I can't. I'm not ready. This is too big. What if I fail?" Johnson continued watching Obama with his heart racing. On this man's shoulders was not just a country's expectations, but the world's. The entire world had focused on this moment. From Africa to Europe, from Asia to Latin America, everyone was waiting for this moment. What was going through Obama's mind? Maybe he was remembering his childhood, the racism he faced growing up in Hawaii, the identity confusion he experienced in Indonesia, the loneliness he felt at Columbia, the pressure he experienced at Harvard. Maybe he was thinking about the future. When he woke up tomorrow morning, he would be president-elect. He would move to the Oval Office, occupy the most powerful position in the world. There was an economic crisis, 2 wars were ongoing, the healthcare system had collapsed, and he was expected to solve all of this. Johnson watched Obama's hands on the monitor. Those hands were shaking because tomorrow they would hold nuclear codes. Those hands were trembling because the fate of millions of people depended on them. No presidential candidate in American history had carried such a huge symbolic burden. Obama wasn't just a candidate, he represented hope. He was the symbol that 400 years of slavery history was ending. Just then, the phone in the room rang. Obama looked at the phone in amazement. How could this be? This room was ultra secure. All calls were filtered. Only the closest team members knew this room's number, and they were all downstairs preparing right now. Johnson was also surprised. According to security protocol, this room didn't accept external calls. All lines were closed. Only internal communication was open. The phone continued ringing, an old-fashioned metallic ringing sound. Obama picked up the receiver with a trembling hand. "Hello?" An elderly woman's voice came from the other end, warm and understanding. "Son, you're Obama, aren't you?" Obama was surprised. This voice didn't sound familiar. "Who's calling? How did you—" "My name is Dorothy Williams. I'm calling from Illinois, from Peoria. I saw you on TV. You look tired, son. You look sad." Obama's mind was confused. How could this be possible? "Ma'am, how did you get this number? This line is supposed to be secure." "Oh, son, I don't know about those technical things. I just dialed and somehow reached you. But listen to me. I have something important to tell you." Johnson was also listening to this conversation through the security system. This was impossible. That room's phone line was completely isolated. How could an external call come through? Dorothy continued, "Son, I have an 8-year-old grandson. My daughter couldn't put him to sleep tonight because that child was crying because he was too young to vote for you." Obama's eyes filled with tears. "Really?" "Yes, son. That child told me. Grandma, if that man becomes president, I can become president too. Look, son, I'm 73 years old. I'd never heard such a thing. But tonight, I saw hope in my grandson's eyes." Obama's breathing began to regulate. These words were touching something deep inside him. Dorothy continued, "You know, son, I grew up in southern Illinois. I experienced segregation in the 1950s. I couldn't drink from the same water fountain as white children. I couldn't go to the same schools. But tonight, when I turned on the TV, I saw a black man becoming president of America. This is a miracle, son. But what if I make wrong decisions?" Obama asked. "Oh, son," Dorothy laughed. "You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. And you are an honest person. I can see it in your eyes." "How can you see my eyes through TV?" Obama asked, puzzled. "Son, when you've lived as long as I have, you learn to see people's souls. And your soul is good. That's why my grandson believes in you." Dorothy's voice became more serious. "Son, you didn't just win for yourself tonight. You won for millions of children. They're waiting for you to be strong." When he heard these words, Obama remembered Frank Miller's words from The Train Journey. "Real power is giving people hope." Dorothy continued her speech. "Look, son, do you know what my grandson said when he saw you on TV? He said, 'Grandma, he looks like me.' That child had never seen anyone who looked like him in such an important position. You gave him a dream, son. But what if I disappoint them?" Obama asked. "Son, disappointment is part of life, but hope is eternal. You gave hope to millions of children tonight. That's more valuable than any political achievement." Obama stood up. His hands were no longer shaking. His breathing had stabilized. "Mrs. Dorothy, how can I thank you? I was losing hope." "Son, we all lose hope sometimes. That's what makes us human. But the important thing is to find it again. And you found it. Now go and give that speech. All of America is waiting for you." "Will I see you again?" Obama asked. "Oh, son, our paths may not cross again. But every time you make a difficult decision, remember my grandson. Remember that there are millions of children like him waiting for hope." The phone hung up. Johnson continued watching Obama from the monitor. Now he was like a different person. He stood up, straightened his tie, squared his shoulders. But what really surprised Johnson was something else. When he checked the hotel records, he couldn't find any call record from someone named Dorothy Williams from Illinois. It was as if that call had never been made. 11:59 p.m. Obama walked to the door. He still had that yellowed Vietnam note in his hand. But now he had put it in his pocket. Because that night he had found a new strength. When he went out to Grant Park, 240,000 people were applauding on their feet. Obama approached the microphone. "Hello, Chicago," he began, his voice strong and clear. There was no trembling. In his speech, he included this sentence, "This victory is not just mine. This victory belongs to every child who hasn't lost hope. Johnson wrote this in his duty report that night. POTUS had brief stress. Situation resolved itself. No security risk. But only he knew the truth. What saved Obama was a phone call, a call from Dorothy Williams. The next day, Johnson tried to find Dorothy Williams. He searched all Illinois phone records. He asked for help from the FBI. He contacted all phone companies in Peoria, but he couldn't find any trace. Johnson conducted a detailed investigation. There was no external call record at 11:52 p.m. that night. No anomaly was found in the hotel phone system. The technical service report detected no malfunction or unauthorized access. Even more mysterious was that the phone in that room wasn't supposed to accept external calls. According to security protocol, all lines were closed. It was only connected to the internal communication system. Johnson watched the security camera footage repeatedly. Obama was clearly visible while having the phone conversation. There were also audio recordings, but the phone's ringing sound couldn't be detected in any recording. It was as if Dorothy Williams had never existed. In 2009, Johnson reported this incident to the FBI's Paranormal Events Department, but no explanation came. The file was archived as Unsolved. In 2012, Johnson conducted a private investigation about the incident. He visited elderly women in Peoria one by one. He found women named Dorothy in their 70s, but none of them remembered making a call that night. One of them said something interesting. "Young man, I was watching Obama on TV with my grandson that night. The child was crying because he was too young to vote for him. I also thought to myself, I wish I could support that man, but I didn't make a call." In 2016, when Johnson retired, he told Obama the story of that night. They met privately in Obama's office. Johnson told every detail: the panic attack, the phone call, Dorothy's words, the subsequent investigations. Obama remained silent for a long time. Then he smiled and said, "Marcus, whoever called me that night gave me the most precious gift: hope. Maybe Dorothy was real, maybe she wasn't, but the strength she gave me that night was real." Obama continued, "You know, Marcus, throughout my presidency, in the most difficult moments, I always remembered that phone conversation. Dorothy's grandson, his hope, that voice saying, 'You can do it too.'" Johnson asked, "So what do you think? Was Dorothy real?" Obama looked out the window, thought for a long time. "Marcus, sometimes life gives us what we need, when we need it. Maybe Dorothy was a voice of millions of people's collective hope. Maybe God sent me an angel that night when he saw my breakdown. Or maybe a real grandmother from Peoria really called and the system somehow made the connection. Which one is true doesn't matter," Obama said. "What matters is the strength that moment gave me. With that strength, I governed the country for 8 years." Even today, Dorothy Williams' identity is unknown. FBI files are still open. Security experts still can't explain that night. But Johnson is now 65 years old and works at a security company. He still keeps the secret security recordings taken that night. The recordings clearly show Obama's panic attack. The phone conversation is also audible, but the source of the call is still unknown. Johnson says, "I will continue to keep those security recordings because people need to know. Even the strongest people sometimes break down, but real strength is being able to get back up. And sometimes this strength comes from the most unexpected places." In 2020, Johnson offered to show the recordings to documentary filmmakers, but Obama's close circle rejected this. "This is a very private moment," they said. "The time to share it hasn't come yet." Maybe it never will. Maybe Dorothy Williams' true identity will remain secret forever. Maybe that phone call really was a paranormal event, or maybe the simplest explanation is true. That night, a grandmother wanted to support the young leader she saw on TV and somehow managed to reach him. But one thing is certain: a 10-minute phone conversation changed America's future. Because that night, Obama didn't just become president, he became the voice of hope that told millions of children, "You can do it too." What about you? Have you ever heard an unexpected voice that lifted you up in your life's most difficult moment? Share in the comments. Because we at Real Life Stories know the greatest victories come after the deepest breakdowns.